Good evening, everyone. Just thought I would do an update video to start the week and maybe go over this move that the last video I posted on YouTube asking do we get a bounce, and we ended up getting a bounce in this area where we had support. And as you guys can see, we're in a channel and moving from bottom to top to bottom to top to bottom. So do we now continue a move, or do we set up a lower high and then break this trend down? We'll have to see. So I'm just going to go over a few things that I'm looking at this week, namely this area. But I just want to go over some confluences regarding this bounce, so that in the future okay, these are the types of areas that have a high probability of going your way, right? So you guys know that I use these channels to navigate my way, right? I'm going to get into this in a bit. Just want to use my simple chart to explain why this was a likely area for a bounce, right? So if we look at this trend line, right, so we had support, why is it doing this? I'm choosing the right one, right? Okay, let's just try to fix this. Okay, so support, and support, right? So there were opportunities right here at the bottom if you looked for it, but if you were maybe concerned that it's going to break this trend line, because it did initially squeeze through. Let me show you like this, just a bit. So it could have maybe threw you off, but that's what you call like a fake out. Close back above that trend line. So I just adjusted it now nicely for this new lower level, right? So you have this support. You guys know I like to use the anchored VWAPs as well. These are very powerful. As you can see, we had if you just take it from the bottom, right, this is the low. We have support, resistance, support. I placed another anchored VWAP on the last touch there, and as you can see, it holds as support. Put another one at the last touch, holds as support. And so this is interesting, this area here, right? So you have the trend line of support, and then this anchored VWAP also as potential support. If you look to the left, we had a low and a high area over here. Let me throw it out like this. Which added as more potential support. You see this area of resistance, and this area of support, and lining up with this area over here, right? If we go down to the smaller time frames, you can look at a few things now in this area over here. So in the group, I pointed out the break of this counter trend line, right? You can see we have resistance, breaks above that resistance, test that resistance as support. And this was the area I pointed out for a potential buy up into this area. I did that, right? So this area, you can see as resistance, support, support, resistance, support, support, resistance, and then we had this retest here of this broken counter trend line. And if we put an anchored VWAP on this last little low here, or was it, which one do we use? Was it this peak? The last peak. Yeah. I also like to use not just the lows, right, but the peaks as well. So you can see the resistance, 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 breaks above, tests as support, moved up into that area, resistance area, where we had support, support, broke down, resistance, and it rejected from there. Then, after that, the market gave us another bite at the apple, right? Right down here. Tested the same counter trend line. And once again, there was an opportunity to get back in. And you could have then, drawn trend lines on the way back up, right? On that same support area that we were looking at before. So that was that move. Now we are at a new area of interest, right? We have to be very careful. I did wait for us to get a break of this counter trend line here. I was expecting a pullback back to this trend line to try and look at some entries, because we had this area of resistance over here, resistance, resistance, support, resistance, right? So I was just looking for that little pullback in there, but we never got that. That never came. So I just let it move. I did take profits, or some profits. I have a few running, but I'm concerned about a pullback, right? So with that being said, now this area that we're at is an area of interest to me, right? Because we've obviously broken this counter trend line of resistance, right? And it looks like it wants to continue moving, possibly. I just want to look at these anchored VWAPs, let's say from this low, and I want to put one on this peak. So this area, I mean, maybe, what I want to see, man, is we are quite getting overbought on the larger time frames, right? Why is this internet so slow? But I want to see if possibly there is, let's say maybe like go sideways a bit longer, give this time to catch up, and then maybe, or this thing could just keep on going, like squeeze by sellers out. We'll have to see. But I'm looking at this area, and I'm looking for more confluences, man, because I'm going to get into why we should really be careful. We are oversold on this counter trend line, right? Which resistance, and then it is so far holding as support, right? So this is an area of interest for a potential buy. We do have quite a bit of divergences on this 2 hour. You see these lows to high, and on the RSI you have the opposite thing happening, right? Even with these lows here. You see what I'm saying? So we have several confluences. We have oversold conditions on the smaller time frames. That's now the 2 hour. Let's look at, we have oversold conditions and bullish divergence on the 2 hour. Oversold conditions on the 1 hour and bullish divergence. So I think there's high potential for a bounce here, guys. So remember, this isn't financial advice. This isn't me telling you where to buy, where to enter. I'm looking at certain areas that I'm interested in and explaining the confluences, the signs that I see there, that there's a possibility for a move in a certain direction, right? So what are we looking at here? I don't know why this internet is so slow today, but bear with me. So counter trend line broken, resistance, breaks, support, potential support here, right? There is a possibility of us going sideways, we'll see. But let me put an anchored VWAP on this last little low here. Oh, and yeah, there you see, we have, put on this low, we have this support here, potential support, I'd say, on this anchored VWAP as well, on the support area, on this horizontal area, that's support here, resistance, support, support, right? Let's go down to the smaller time frames. What I'm going to be looking at now for a potential buy, and what is going on with this thing? Is looking at these smaller time frames. You see, we're forming a bit of a double bottom here, right? On support. So we could hover and maybe get a breakout. We'll see. Maybe we get another push down, triple bottom vibes. Let's quickly go down to the 5 minute. I want to check something out there. So I want to see, let's just throw some counter trend lines here. Never quite came back to test, or it might have tested on the 5 minute. A little bit too risky for me. And yeah, here you have a bit of an area of resistance, breaks, test as support, double bottom on this. So this could have been the entry right there on Friday. And you could have now had like a entry at break even already, but we'll see what happens this week when tomorrow is Labor Day in the States. So possibility of this thing just moving sideways, we'll see. But I am keeping an eye, further eye on this area over here. This whole little area over here, man. Right. Yeah, I see something else. We had a little bit of a area here where you can see resistance, 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 breaks resistance, test and support. So yeah, I'm still gonna see what happens here tomorrow before I decide which way I'm going to go. But I think it's an area of interest for you guys to look at for a potential buy. Now, with that said, right, I did send a chart into on Friday. What was it? Thursday. I got really busy at my my shop here. I think we should go to the 4 hour. Where I pointed out if we continue going right, we need to keep an eye on maybe potentially we could get a push up into resistance. Right? As you can see here, we have a bit of a support area. Support, support, break support, this as resistance, right? So if we get a bounce here, we have the potential to maybe push into this area to form a potential double top. I don't know. I'm just speculating. I'm looking at the options here now, right? And this area of support here, where we have support, support, and could potentially form resistance in this area. I don't know if we get that high. We are getting out like a bit out oversold, overbought, getting a little overstretched. We'll see. You know, it's NASDAQ. But with everything going on, I think we should be careful. Let me just check if there's a little bit. Yeah, so here's, you know, could be overkill, but here we have another potential area of support where we have resistance, 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 breaks resistance, potential support. So this area is looking juicy to me, man. You know, it is, it has piqued my interest, so I want to see what happens here, man. Even if it's like just a small little bounce, we'll see. Maybe push us out a little bit. We'll see. Let me move to this section over here. So those of you guys that know me know I draw these channels with these levels, right? And that helps me find, you know, particular areas to add to my confluences. So just want to look at where we are right now. Same analysis as the chart before, right? We have our counter trend line of resistance, resistance, break, support, potential support, where it's at now. This level of support and resistance. Let's take our anchored VWAPs. Put it that low. And that last low. Support, potential support here. Alright. So it's looking good for a potential buy here. However, I do think we should be careful. We should consider where we are right now. And let me just put on this Fibonacci tool quickly and delete some of these things. I don't want the chart to be too busy. So I'll send this chart with this area of interest to the group, and you guys can then decide how the week plays out, tomorrow and Tuesday plays out. Maybe we get a bounce tomorrow and then a drop, right? So first thing I want to show you guys is the VIX. Now the VIX, as you guys know, if the VIX goes down, the market goes up. If the VIX goes up, the market goes down. So you guys can see what kind of formation this thing is forming here. It's forming oversold conditions, right? It's moving into oversold conditions. It's moving into an area where it could find potential support, right? And retest this previous resistance level, resistance, breaks resistance, tests as support, and is moving into that little area here, right? So that's why I think we have the potential. Let's now say this thing still wants to move into this area down. It could send us up. It has the potential to then send us further up. I don't know how much further we can go. So that's why I think one should tread very lightly. Don't practice proper risk management. And if you do decide to enter, and treat it as like day trades, I guess, for now. And the reason I say that is, with all these confluences we see here for a potential buy, this could also just be a fake out, right? Everyone sees this, okay, we're going now, and that's when they decide to pull the rug from under you. So I just want to highlight some reasons why I am trading very cautiously. Is this little trend line over here, where we have resistance, resistance, We broke that resistance. So this bounce could simply be a retest, or it could still go sideways and then move into that area. So just be careful. So let's look at this area, guys, this week. I'd say tomorrow, Tuesday, we look at this area, see what further confluences we get there for a potential buy. But I would say trade very lightly, as we could be getting a pullback very soon. Right? There's a tool that I use on my MT4. Let me see if I can pull it up here quickly. Just give me a second. Okay, just give me a second. I'll pull it up quickly. So this is my MT4. I just want to show you guys. This is an interesting indicator that I have here that's been proving very powerful. And it's showing me here, this area over here, that we should be very careful. As you can see, this thing bounces. Let's go to the back here, top to the bottom, and we are in an area here. So I would just suggest we trade lightly. I do see the potential of something like this happening, right? You see it, 3 checks off here, and then 3 drives to a high, 1, 2, 3, right? So we may already have that with the 1, 2, and maybe now a 3 back up, right? And then it's just speculation, but this is part of the reason why I'm looking at a potential sell here. I did get in here on Friday, as you guys can see. I will see how long I can hold it for. I basically closed most of my entries down here and took my profit because of the support. But I left a small one open here, about a lot. Yeah, 2 0.5s. I'll see where that goes. But yeah, just thought I'll show you guys this little tool. It's showing me that we could be having a pullback soon, so trade very lightly. Let's go back to this chart. There's something else that's interesting. We have a nine count sell signal, right? So we had a 9 count sell signal on Friday with that candle, daily candle, but like I said, could still push up, but as warning of a potential pullback, right? So like for instance, you can see here, it did push a bit up before it dropped over here as well, had the 9 count and then pushed further up to take out. Let's say you sold there, these guys come and take you out, and then the drop happens, right? Over here pretty much dropped immediately, but it was a small drop. Had the 9 count saddle signal here, pushed up a bit and then dropped. But so that's why I'm looking at this. Maybe we have another push and then another drop. But let's say it pushes up or it goes sideways for a bit. And you can see what kind of support we have there. Another thing to consider, guys, September is an off season, right? September generally is a bearish season. These are all things we need to consider, man. And, with inflation still raging, right? It's ticking back up. The Fed's most likely going to raise interest rates again. We are in a high interest rate environment, and usually that's not good for the market. The reason we rallied from COVID was because of low interest rates, stimulus into the economy, and it just sent it up, right? So now, and it just pushed. So now we are in the opposite of that. We're now in a high interest environment. So my concern here is that we had this nice big correction, I would say, because we're pushing back up. We're in a nice little bullish channel here. At this point, I'm only looking for buys, right? But let's say now, I'm only looking for buys, but if we now break this resistance, then we could look for a sell. I do think we still have a very high chance of a recession. A lot of things are saying that a recession is coming. Could this just be a bull trap? A bear market rally. But until then, we just trade the price action and trade the price action until it shows us otherwise. Just another little confluence here I want to show for a buy, right? We have a potential double bottom here, double neckline. So maybe we get something like that. There's a lot of confluences saying buy, right? So that's why I'm looking for buy positions myself. And I'm showing you guys why I'm looking for those buy positions. So, yeah, man. If there's anyone that wants to join our group, there's a link in the bio. Started a new subscription service where I do these analysis and daily videos every day for the guys in the group. The aim is to teach you how to trade, how to implement these different strategies, how you look for potential entry points, what confluences you look for example, your trend, your support resistance levels, your candlestick patterns, your anchored VWAP, your break and retest areas, consolidation areas, trend lines, divergences over sold conditions, etc. Right? So, let's start the week looking at this area and see, maybe we get away with a nice little buy. But like I say, I would trade lightly, but it's looking good. Let's just see what further confluences we can get and potentially a push into this area. Nah, I think that's it for tonight, guys. I'm gonna tune in again tomorrow morning in the group and see what else is different, what else we can look at. But for now, interesting area here. Let's keep our eye on it. All right. Good night, guys.